Hello and welcome back. My name is Rosie.
And my name is Paul.
And this is Sinister. Now, before we get started, we did want to let you know we're currently in the process of going through all of our old audio and episodes, updating it to new audio in our new room just because the sound quality is a bit better. We have better, lack of echoing.
Technology, basically.
So hopefully Paul sounds a bit louder now because in all the previous episodes I was like, I can barely hear him.
Yes, because your voice is just overpowering.
I'm very loud.
You are loud.
I know. So just over the next few weeks, those will be coming out while we're still uploading new episodes too, but we'll be updating the quality of those a bit. And also the episodes that Paul wasn't in, maybe he will now be in.
Looking forward to it.
Cool. But I do want him in the Julia Martha Thomas case with Kate Webster because Paul seems to think I was attempting to insult the entire Irish population with that one.
You made a fair attempt of it. From what I heard of the podcast.
From what you heard.
I turned it off immediately after you insulting all the Irish people.
No, so when we re-upload it, he can insult all the Irish people instead.
I wouldn't do that on my own.
You wouldn't?
On my own.
To be fair, they're my own too. I just have an accent.
They weren't your own at the time that you were recording. You didn't have your passport in. So now you're a proper petty. Come on, get on with the case. What are we doing today?
On today's episode, we are back with another case from Ireland.
Cool. Closer to home.
It is, which is why this one kind of scares me. I do have some concern about publicly addressing and discussing a crime so close to home, particularly when the person who committed the crime was never found, quite possibly still out there wandering around, willing to commit other crimes.
So it's a crime. It's an unsolved
disappearance.
Missing case. Okay, there's been a few of them in Ireland.
Yeah, so this is also possibly linked to a larger serial killer or killers, like network, which we will discuss. So I think that also leads to some cause for concern. Regardless, it happened a little ways away. So in today's episode, which was actually suggested to me by you months ago, if you remember, I thought it would be super interesting if we discussed the 1995 case of Jo Jo Dullard.
Jo Jo Dullard.
Yeah.
It's actually her anniversary. It's the anniversary of that case today.
It's the 29th, anniversary of her disappearance today.
29 years ago.
Yes. So I'm hoping...
Which is probably still very sensitive to a lot of people in Ireland because it was the biggest case around at that time. And would be mid-90s.
Yes, 95. And I'd say even with how much it's in the media and things like that, still today, 29 years later, I think that would be a very fair assessment.
It seems that they're still recognising the anniversary of it.
Absolutely. And still wanting answers. They're still wanting to know more. I am hoping, because obviously this is a case that I've researched, but you actually probably somewhat lived through this. So maybe with things you do have answers you have a bit of knowledge on and you can interrupt me whenever you do. No, we will get into it, so we will give you the answers.
Well, hopefully during that, it's the anniversary, we'll know that there might be more people coming forward. Look, I know it's 29 years.
Yeah.
Look, there might be hope out there that some people can have some answers.
That would be really nice. Like, look, we will get into it and I will give you the answer that I do have, but I think there's always those times when you want the deathbed confessions and things like that out of people. But who knows what's going to happen. Some people are just, they never give those deathbed confessions. Also, too, just to state for the non-Irish listeners, in Ireland, police are called like guards. What is it? Guards and Garda, what's the difference?
Guards. There is no difference.
So they're all the same thing, it's just, why is it sometimes guards and sometimes Garda?
I suppose Gardas for Irish, guards are...
like English speaking?
No, it's the English term for it.
Yeah,
Garda,
so then Garda would be the Gaelic.
Garda be Gaelic.
Yeah. So I will try and stick with the same name, but for those that just didn't know that, that's what they're called here, and to avoid confusion. So anyway, without further ado, let me tell you about Jo Jo Dullard. Jo Jo was born Josephine Dullard on the 25th of January 1974 in Callan, Kilkenny, here in Ireland. Jo Jo was the youngest of 5 siblings. Her father, John, passed away before Jojo was even born, and her mother, Nora, passed away from cancer in 1983 when Jojo would have only been about 9 years old.
That's what none of her parents would have gone through any of the torture of Jojo missing. Or...
No. I couldn't actually find what happened from there with Jojo, if she was raised by siblings or other family members, or what happened if she went and lived somewhere. She does seem to have come from a close-knit family, and her siblings are all still close to this day. I have a feeling she was just living with her siblings.
Yeah, I suppose like she was youngest of 6. You can imagine.
Hopefully someone was old enough.
It was probably, siblings were probably older. It was kind of an era in Ireland that there was big families.
Yeah.
She looked at plenty relatives, relations. There'd be no such thing as sent to a foster home. Like there were plenty of people to
Yeah.
care them.
Yeah. Then at 19, Jojo moved to Dublin and spent 2 years working there, but she ultimately decided to move back home to Callan in 1995 at the age of 21. In Callan, she was living with her sister Kathleen. Again, not sure if there was other people, not sure if Kathleen had her own partner, kids, anything. I just know they were living together. So Jojo was offered a job as a waitress, and she was due to start work on the 13th of November 1995, which was a Monday. So on the Thursday prior, which was the 9th of November 1995, at 8:30 a.m, Jojo started the journey to Dublin to sign off her social welfare and collect her final payment, since she'd obtained work and needed to finalise that. So Jojo travelled by bus into Dublin and sorted all of that out. While in Dublin, she caught up with some friends at Bruxelles pub throughout the afternoon and evening. Is this a well-known pub? Do you know it?
Was it?
Bruxelles, I think? I could be pronouncing it wrong.
I thought it was Fox's pub that she was in.
Bruxelles.
Was she not up in Fox's pub? No. Am I thinking something different?
Oh, I don't know. Every source said this was the pub.
Maybe so.
Unless it's known as something else.
No, I think of Johnny Fox's pub. That could be a different case.
The way it was described online was as if it was a very well-known pub, so I thought it must have been some big commonplace.
Look, that's back in the early 90s. That was before my drinking time, so...
You would have been, what, 14? 15?
I was hanging around fucking Dublin.
Okay. So after a happy evening with friends, Jojo went to the central Dublin bus station at 10 p.m. that evening to find that she had missed the final bus to Callan. Now, you know I'm not great with Irish geography, so this is where I may need some of your help. Just telling me where places are and name pronunciation maybe more so.
Yeah, look, I'll try my best.
So,
see, like this would all happen around Leinster.
Well, that's, yeah.
Leinster, like, they're all small counties, all kind of intertwining with each other. Like, there's, you have Carlow, you would have Kilkenny, you'd have Wicklow, Dublin, they'd be all kind of intertwined. You'd be stepping out one county, like, they'd be all jut into each other, basically.
Okay. So, since there weren't any more buses to Callan going this night, Jojo took a bus to Kildare, obviously just trying to start to make her journey closer to home. She arrived in Naas, Kildare at 10:50 p.m. that night. Now, remembering this was the 90s, Jojo attempted to hitchhike her way home and very quickly got a lift from Naas. Like
that would have been the main means of travel back then, was hitching. It was a done thing.
Yeah.
But you didn't have much traffic on the road, so just trying to get a spin was a bonus.
Okay.
And someone that actually pick up another bonus.
Right. She very quickly got a spin from Naas to Kilcullen, which is in Kildare. And then, would Naas be far from Kildare?
Naas is part of Kildare.
Sorry. Would Naas be far to Kilcullen?
No.
You don't know.
Kilcullen, you'll be probably maybe talking... Probably back then the roads would have been great, maybe half an hour.
Okay, that's a decent spin, then.
Like, they wouldn't have the motorways back then that they'd have now, but... Or the road structure, or the powerful cars, so...
Okay.
You probably... Yeah, so give it half an hour, maybe 2 hours an hour.
Okay. Well, from Kilcullen, she quickly got another lift to a small village called Moon, where she arrived at 11:35. Again, still in Kildare. So in Moon, Jojo used a public phone box to call a friend, Mary, at 11:37. She asked Mary if she could stay with her in Carlo due to missing the Callan bus home. Also, too, I just found out that Carlo was a place while researching this. I had never heard of this county ever.
Carlo?
Yes.
Look, it's still in the Leinster County. It couldn't be very big or very popular for much. There's a college, basically, that's what it is. But it'll be big. It'll be a big town.
Because I feel like most place I know of from you watching sports and things like that.
They wouldn't be known for
sports?
For sports.
Yeah, so I'd never seen them in any capacity. I didn't know it was a place until today.
They're just kind of there to make up numbers.
Okay.
Yes.
But anyway, by looking at a map, Carlo kind of seemed to be on the way down from Moon to Callan, on the journey that way, getting closer to home. However, while on the call, Jojo interrupted it to leave the phone for a moment, returning to let Mary know that a car has stopped and she's got a lift home. This was when that call ended. Now, the following day, Jojo's sister Kathleen is home and wondering how Jojo still couldn't be home after leaving 24 hours prior. So she calls the guards to report Jojo missing. Initially, the guards didn't take this report super seriously and allowed a further 2 days to pass before acting on this report. This would have been so fucking frustrating for her family and friends, absolutely heartbreaking, and especially for those that know the first 48 hours are the most vital in an investigation. What a horrible, helpless feeling to be her family then.
Yeah, I suppose, look, I know a lot of her family probably won't have cars or transport at the time. They'd be depending on buses and depending on the garden.
Well, yeah, and like, what are they supposed to do? There's no phones. They can't just call her.
Yeah, look, they won't have mobiles or anything.
No, absolutely not. So it's just, yeah, it's very sad. Like, it's just you're relying on someone and they're not really taking it seriously. That'd be very hard. So once police finally did decide to actually start taking the report seriously, they searched the River Barrow in Leash and the road from Moon to Carlo, but nothing came up in either destination. So police then released a public statement about her disappearance, which was on the third day after it occurred, and urged the public to come forward with any information they might have. So a woman comes forward stating she witnessed a woman of Jojo's description leaning in the back door of a dark-coloured Toyota Carina type of car shortly after the time Jojo would have left the phone booth. However, neither the driver or occupants were found. The car never really led anywhere, unfortunately.
I suppose, look, she probably didn't have a proper description of the car, and the number plate would have been probably different like that, and the guards probably wouldn't trust. She probably didn't get number plate registry.
Probably not. It doesn't actually say.
The guards probably mightn't have this system to find out rages, or they probably not. They wouldn't get them as fast as what they would know.
No, and it's a different time. Another witness came forward claiming to have seen Jojo in Castle Dermot, which is only a few miles from Moon, around midnight on the 9th. So maybe like 20 or so minutes after she got off the phone. So, also, just for future knowledge, there were 2 Englishmen seen at a chip shop in Castle Dermot earlier this night. Then, there was a young truck driver that came forward, informing police that on the night of her disappearance, he was driving with his boss, and the 2 of them witnessed a woman running naked and screaming through the village of Moon. He stated his boss pulled the car over to get out and attempt to help the woman, but obviously when his boss, a male, I'm assuming, started running after her, she obviously ran faster, wanting to get away from a man chasing her. He informed police of how his boss had called them that night off a phone box. The boss went to a phone box, informed them, and the guards basically said they'd send out a car so the 2 men could be on their way. Who knows if a car was ever sent out that night? I'm not even being funny. Anyway, so they went off. And then, so the guards deemed their story acceptable and credible. Obviously, they had proof of getting the phone call or something. And they decided the 2 men must have witnessed a different woman that night since they'd already received the story that Jojo was in Castle Dermot. So they wouldn't accept it as being her and never linked it as possibly even being Jojo because someone else had said they'd seen Jojo in Castle Dermot, which also may not have even been
it could be
Jojo.
Someone totally different out there. They weren't.
So they refused. So they would not accept it. So the leads the guards did have kind of fizzled out. There was nothing really to go with from there. And then obviously there were the ones that they were just ignoring, like the truck driver. And this case kind of just went cold. They didn't close it. It wasn't a closed, cold case. They never stopped working on it, but just there wasn't really anything else to go off. Mary was the last confirmed person to speak to JoJo that night in Moon, and unfortunately, JoJo didn't give her any details about who she was getting in the car with, so police just had nothing else to go off. It wasn't until 1997, 2 years later, that a witness came forward informing investigators that early morning Friday the 10th, which would have been a few hours after JoJo was last heard from in Moon, around 1:25 a.m., he witnessed something. He stated he'd seen a red car with an English license plate. And then he saw a woman similar to JoJo's description attempting to leave the car. I'm assuming it was still moving, and then stopped. And two men with English accents bundled her back into the car.
This fellow witnessed this
2 years later. I'm assuming he didn't come forward at the time because he thought they were going to be like, well, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you try to stop it? And he felt guilty for not trying to stop it or something. That's my assumption on why he didn't originally come forward. That or it's totally make-believe.
Well, I don't know, because this was the biggest case being covered by RT News.
Yeah.
That time, and they're appealing for public to come forward.
There ends up, there's a 10,000 euro reward or something. That would have been crazy massive money, especially back then.
You could buy some size of a house for back then.
Yeah.
I say, why would somebody come forward 2 years? If he witnessed that, that's...
It's interesting. But anyway, this would have been about an hour after she was supposedly spotted in Castle Dermot, and it's definitely possible to get that distance in that time. So timeline-wise, it could work if both witnesses were in fact seeing JoJo. Not to say they definitely were, but say if it was, that does work. And the two supposed Englishmen matched the description of the two men seen earlier at the chip shop in Castle Dermot. If you remember me saying there was two Englishmen at the chip shop. So anyway, after this, it's 2 years later, but police searched the area for two Englishmen with a car with English license plates who may have been in the area around that time. 2 years later, leads they weren't really leading.
How do you say this chip shop?
Also, if they were just driving through that area, it could have just been some random town that they pulled over in for a moment or whatever.
Yeah, so back then, you won't have the big motorists we have now, right? So even driving from Dublin to Cork, you'd be going through all different towns and English place, they could be coming from the north.
Yeah.
They could be heading down south. The motorway structure wasn't there back then, so they would be going through every kind of town.
Yeah.
There would be no bypassing or...
Also, 2 years later, are you remembering someone's description? I couldn't remember someone from 2 years later or what they looked like. Not well enough to match their description to someone, I'd say.
No.
Now, a recreation of this sighting was made and advertised on television. I'm assuming RTE had it on.
They were retracing her steps and they were retracing I can remember, I was a young Philibus, I can remember they showing the phone box and everything like that was on the news at the time. They were RTE were doing more investigating, I presume, than the guards themselves.
Yeah. Well, this was constantly on TV urging witnesses to come forward with anything at all that they may remember from the night.
One of these bigger cases that would have been kind of really heard of at the time.
Yeah. Then again, police kind of lacked any information and no new leads were coming up about JoJo, I believe, up until 2019, when a priest from Kilkenny released a public appeal for information. In response, the priest supposedly received an anonymous letter about JoJo, but he handed this letter over to the police and the contents were never publicly revealed. The following year, in 2020, the guards had enough relevant information into her disappearance to upgrade the case from a disappearance to a murder investigation.
It's 25 years after that's
speedy police work. This was following a reinvestigation by the Garda Serious Crime Review team. Unfortunately, they had enough evidence to strongly believe that JoJo was met with serious harm either that night or in the following days and was consequently murdered. This led them again to urge the public on anything, encouraging people who were even initially not believed to come forward. Luckily, this was when the truck driver came forward again. Also, he doesn't have a name. It's not Anyway, that's why I'm just referring to him as the truck driver. He came forward again with his story about seeing a naked woman running and screaming in Moon, and police reinvestigated as this possibly being JoJo. Unfortunately, 25 years later, really, where are they getting with that? They still didn't get further in the investigation from this. However, there were a lot of new bits of information. There ended up being another disappearance of a young woman under similar circumstances in 1998 that in later years was somewhat linked to JoJo. So let me tell you about Deirdre Jacob. Deirdre was actually born on the exact same day as you, the 14th of October 1979. She was only 18 years old in 1998 and was last seen very close to her front door in Newbridge, Kildare on the 28th of July. When I say very near her front door, like across the road from her home on a public street, like a busy street. So this was 2 years after JoJo and about a 10-minute drive away from where JoJo went missing. Deirdre was last seen waving at neighbours as they passed her, because again, she was outside her home, and suddenly she just vanished. No trace ever again. Right?
I don't really remember this case. It must have been...
I will add, and I've got more to say about this later, but I feel like JoJo is so well known due to all the hard work her family must have gone through. I genuinely believe that when I see everything 29 years later, her sisters are still doing interviews, they pushed this. I'd say they pushed this 100%.
I should have went closer, of course, like any family would.
Of course. And I'm not saying less of Deirdre's, I just think this got as far as it did because they were so persistent. Especially her sister Kathleen. She just seems very persistent, like she was not... Yeah.
Yeah, never going to let it go.
She was getting closure and someone's giving her closure, and I think that's amazing. So I think that's why this one is so well known and so thoroughly gone through the media.
I'm hoping that she would get closure before she would pass away herself before.
I really hope she does. I hope the family does. But yeah, no, we will go into that further later. So again, similarly to JoJo's, Deirdre's case ended up drying up and police couldn't find more information leading to possible suspects for her disappearance.
Don't work with guards again.
Deirdre's case had also been upgraded to a murder case instead of a missing persons case in the following years, similar to JoJo's. So in October 2021, a search was conducted in a woodland area around the Kildare-Wicklow border in relation to the two women's disappearance. So
it would have been a fair place to get rid of bodies.
Okay.
Because that is the gangs, Dublin gangs, is to get rid of that bodies in the Wicklow Mountains. It's a known fact, like the Wicklow Mountains, like you put a body up there, it's never going to be found.
It's quite horrible.
It's going to... might hear maybe 10, 15 years after a fellow walkie dog came across a skeleton.
Okay.
There's such a big area and such wild growth, it's just crazy.
Okay.
But I guess if you want to get rid of a body,
that's the
take
place.
it to Wicklow Mountains.
Alright, let's not be giving people ideas.
Plus you have so much wildlife up there that there'd be a body gone decompose in a long time. Very short space of time.
What kind of animals are up there that can decompose of a body?
Probably foxes, badgers.
Okay, just numerous small animals.
Wild animals, right?
Yeah, okay. I was thinking there must have been bears or something crazy.
I bet you have birds, eagles.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah. And they'd have time to chew away in a body. And if it's buried, who's going to know where to look?
Yeah. No, that's very sad. It is very sad. Ireland is such a beautiful place, but there is a lot of fields and just random spots, and there's bogs and there's forestry. There's so much just land.
It is, and look, there's land that's not very easy to access.
Yeah, okay.
Say for search groups or stuff like that. I thought they'd probably more technology, with drones, helicopters, all this kind of stuff that they can cover bigger areas if they can see if there's ground started being disturbed.
Okay.
Let's say back then, the guards and everything resources. Maybe a couple of sniffer dogs in the country.
Stop.
Dogs not going to cover the Wicklow Mountains.
Yeah, okay. But if all these places are such small little counties, is Wicklow a lot bigger?
No, it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be. That'd be probably bigger. It'd be bigger than Callan or Kildare.
Okay.
Bigger area, but just so kind of mountainy roads, and it's all close to Dublin. Just like
Okay.
the city of the Dublin
Border.
border.
So this search was conducted in the woodland area on the Kildare-Wicklow border. It was said that there was unusual activity in the area on the night of Deirdre's disappearance, which was only discovered after a review of evidence, right? Apparently the evidence was that someone had been seen dragging something into the area on the night of Deirdre's disappearance. They ignored that until a review of evidence came up and they reassessed it years later. 2021.
And Deirdre missing back in
1998. The more research I did into this, the sadder I was, because I really feel like families were let down. So anyway, there was no information on the size of the item being dragged. I do not know for a fact it is body size or anything. What I do know is that this country is far too relaxed. They really need to stop just sleeping on things. So, given that JoJo had gone missing in such a similar area, their hope was for them to uncover in this area evidence related to both of their cases, right? So this area covered about 3 to 4 acres and took 15 people from the Garda Technical Bureau plus a forensic archaeologist 3 weeks to search with an excavator.
That don't make much sense. What year did you say it was?
3 to 4 acres? What doesn't make sense?
No, that's like it's a big area to cover in a short space of time.
So you just don't think it was thorough?
I wouldn't think it'd be thorough. Like I said, what had them the reason to they just go and dig out that area, discard off an area to show that they're doing something?
I don't know. I will say though, prior to them doing this, they had estimated that it would take 3 weeks to do, and on the 3rd week it was done.
This is just showing it. Like, just to go off the beaten track, there was a case there lately of a young fellow up in Drogheda missing. They took excavators into a house where he used to previously live. This fella's only school age. I said, I'm not too sure, but maybe 7, 8, 9. He's missing for a couple of years.
Okay.
But now they're looking for him. But they even took in an excavator and dug up a garden and stuff in the area from a house where he used to live with his parents.
Yeah.
Nothing showed. Like, there's different people living in this house. Just went in for a couple of days.
Tore up the...
Dug up the place and...
You think they were just wasting time? Trying to look like they were doing something?
Basically trying to look like that.
Yeah. Look, I know there are times where they can help, I'm sure, but this...
Yeah, big granny across the road, her bag of shopping is not doing any favours for people that are missing around the country.
Yeah. The rate at which people seem to just go missing in this country and never be found again seems concerning. And that as well we will get into. Anyway, I believe they were expecting to find remains, but unfortunately none were found. No evidence in any capacity was there. This is where all of this gets a little scary to me, like I said. There are some people thinking that these 2 cases are linked to a number of other disappearances and murders known as the Vanishing Triangle. Do you know this well? Because I'm only going off research.
Once, to be honest,
Okay.
I've heard it being mentioned, but like that, no.
So the term the Vanishing Triangle has been used to describe a series of high-profile disappearances of young Irish women in the east of Ireland, specifically Leinster, during the late 80s through to the late 90s. So each of the cases involved in this seem to share common characteristics. So each of the women's ages range between late teens to early 30s. They each disappeared inexplicably and very suddenly, with no substantial clues or evidence ever found. It stated, despite large-scale Garda searches, however, this part has led guards to believe all remains are likely buried in remote fields, bogs, and forests. Plus, the disappearances are only in, like I said, like the eastern part of the country, roughly covering an 80-mile radius of Dublin. So, JoJo's disappearance has been included in Operation Trace, which is a Garda operation set up in 1998 to investigate cases included under the Vanishing Triangle category, and to investigate any potential links between them. But in this, there are 13 different women who either disappeared or were found murdered who fit into the Vanishing Triangle category.
13.
So, as I said, it was believed that they were all linked to the same serial killer or killers active in the area during this time period.
All women.
All women, all between the ages of like 18 to 30, things like that. However, there is a lot of people who think these cases are completely unrelated and that the Vanishing Triangle is a false phenomenon. I feel like there are 13 women who have disappeared under such similar circumstances. At least some of them must be linked. There is no way that there is 13 different kidnappers or murderers out there with such similar MO during the same time period, like within the same decade, in the same, like all in Leinster.
Most people don't want to believe that they're linked.
Why? I would prefer to believe they're linked than think there was 13 different psychopaths out there.
I suppose so. They don't want to. I suppose the guard or the Garda or whatever they call them, they don't want to put out that it's linked, that there's some one psycho around there that's still on the prowl.
They think they're going to find 13 different killers or kidnappers or...
But you're like, they're not going to put them all down to murders, right?
No, they're not. And that's the thing.
They're going to hide them up as different. They're not going to link them all as the same.
No.
Missing people, or they're going to even bring suicide into it.
Look, I will let it be known now, of those 13, so they are still included in the Vanishing Triangle. Some of these women definitely are not linked, as their murderers have confessed to killing them. 2 of the cases, it was one of the woman's husbands had killed both of them. So there's, 11 left. And then there's a few others that have come forward. There's 3 that are confirmed murders. The rest are disappearances or most likely murders. But yeah, without a body found. But
well, like I say, it's a prone that area. It's a big area. Like you could bring in every policeman from Australia. They won't cover this area. How are you going to expect our little crew of spotted Garda officers?
I'm still stunned that there was a report that someone had seen someone dragging something into the area that was ignored the night of a woman's disappearance. The whole investigation blows my mind. I will not get over that.
I think you spin up to the Wicklow Mountain or something.
Please don't.
Yeah, you could be witnessing stuff up there too.
Oh, stop it.
Other people are missing.
Yeah, that's just, not for me. So now I mentioned the Operation Trace Task Force, which to this date have failed to turn up any substantial clues to the fate of any of the missing women, despite a €10,000 reward offered for...
It would have been pounds at the time, which would have been...
Actually, do you know what? It actually says here pounds, and I automatically changed it in my head to euros. It was a £10,000 reward. Is that better or worse?
Oh, that'd been big money, so.
So, despite the £10,000 reward offered for information resulting in the recovery of a body, nothing came of it, which is extremely unfortunate, especially for the victims' families who have to live without knowing what actually happened to their loved ones. I also read a news article that stated they felt many... I'm going to be paraphrasing, by the way. They felt many of the Vanishing Triangle linked cases were botched from the start, mainly by guards unwilling to treat the cases as murder from the beginning, and the cases thus not garnering the needed attention from the very beginning, ultimately giving the killers a head start, allowing for forensic and physical evidence to be lost. That was me paraphrasing the Irish Times.
Yeah, look, you can blame the guards, but basically didn't have the resources. And
perhaps they didn't.
They wouldn't have, they wouldn't have. And look, I said there's the laxities in the resources they have even today,
Here's the thing though, they're not taking reports seriously until multiple days later. They're ignoring sightings of things being dragged into forests the night of a woman going missing. They got a phone call saying a woman was screaming naked running through Moon, and their response was, oh, no worries, we'll send a car there, you can go ahead, be on your way.
That's the attitude, that's the way they are, they don't, that's their protocol.
They need a better one.
But that has to come from the top.
Fix it at the top,
Need the government.
Well, then the government should fix it, because 13 women under a similar category is insane. That's just what I researched from this.
Of course.
And in saying that, do you remember me telling you I was going through the missing persons database of Ireland today, and I was flicking through there, and all my days, pages and pages and pages and pages, and they're all just missing. Not even an indication. Most of them don't even have much information. Won't even say a lot about them or anything. It's really, I don't know. There just wasn't enough to go off, even if you did see someone of a similar description or something, like you wouldn't know.
No, I say, look, it's just the whole system in this country. They don't have the resources now, never mind back then.
Look, it's really horrible because a lot of people are obviously suffering because of that.
It is, but like even to this day, no, there are claws, gas stations all over the country.
Wait, where were we? And we went somewhere and they were like, oh, the police, where was it? There was only one police officer living in it and then that was about to close. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
That was down in Glengarriff.
Glengarriff, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh yeah, there's just one guy and he lives in there, but like, he's about to retire and then it'll be done. It's very wild to me. That's why, look, I think coming from Australia too, and I was in like a small city, it's a very interesting concept for me.
Australian police are advertising here looking for trained guards.
Oh, like they're going to come and steal your guards when you already don't have any.
Wouldn't you want to blame them?
Well, to be fair, Australia pays better.
Australia pays better and they have more protection and you've stricter gun laws or you've no guns in it, do you?
You need a lot to get a gun or a license and everything.
Compared to here, like it's relaxy daisy. And plus they can't keep up with the power of the ammunition from the criminal ganglands.
Right.
With serious weaponry. The beat on the street have a baton, probably a can of pepper spray. That's not much good against an M16 or whatever.
Hey, do your police not have guns?
Special armed forces, that's it.
Stop it.
You're normal.
Cop isn't armed. Stop.
As I said, they have a baton and a can of pepper spray.
I thought you were being a little bit funny.
Which, I tell you wouldn't give them guns in it.
Not the ones I've seen. Obviously, this isn't all police. We're not.
Oh, we're not, but they just don't have resources in this country. How many cases can you go back? Even Sophie, Plantina down in West Cork, like, please fuck ups again.
Yeah.
Stuff going missing, evidence going missing, guards are turning up at the right place, right time, come in and walk your own on top of evidence.
No, I think when it comes to there being like such a regular thing of this many like high costly mistakes, there is a problem. But I'm sure there is some amazing guards that take their job very seriously and are perfect for the job. But there is just always people that ruin it for everyone else. And this case really shows that. I feel like it really does. As I said, there are 13 women who match the Vanishing Triangle description. 3 of those women's bodies were found, which, as horrific as it is, at least those families do have some form of closure. 2 of them had the husband come forward. There is some closure.
Were their bodies recovered?
Yeah, 3 bodies recovered. But I think really it would be so interesting to uncover all the unsolved ones and see if they can be linked, if there is like actual thorough linkings to these women where they could be from the same killer or killers. I would say that would be an intensive episode and a long, thorough investigation. So while I would love to do something like that, I don't think it's happening anytime soon. I just think, can you...
Actually, I suppose if we can pick up whatever we can, and there are 10 or 9 missing women.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean.
I suppose all you're going to have, you're not going to have police reports and be more honest, papers, news articles.
Yeah. The issue is, unfortunately, as well, some news articles just aren't consistent. Like, I do feel like there was a lot of inconsistency, and there were some things I knew for a fact to be true, and like news articles had gotten it wrong, and I was like, there's nothing in this news article I'm willing to use now for my research.
Yeah, look, the red tops, as they call it, they can be fairly exaggerated with some of their stories.
Yeah. But no, I just think that would be really interesting. I think there is a lot of things linking these cases together that people are ignoring. Anyway, police ended up releasing more information later regarding a black Sanyo cassette player with matching headphones that JoJo was carrying at the time of her disappearance. You know how police might keep parts of information out of the media so that if someone has information on it, they know they're connected to the case in some way. So police released this information, urging people to come forward if they'd seen the cassette player or if they'd received a similar one as a gift of someone, or if someone randomly got one and couldn't explain where it came from. They were thinking closer to Christmas time, maybe someone gifted it to someone, like their kid or something, as a Christmas present.
But was it found or was it?
Nothing ever came from that. No one ever came forward about it. But realistically, if your dad randomly gave you a Walkman for Christmas or something like that, are you ever going to come forward with that? Like,
that was the biggest thing to ever get.
you wouldn't ask where it came from. But I do find in Ireland her disappearance has been so highly publicised, as in JoJo's. As Paul said, it's the 29th anniversary of her disappearance today.
And it's still making public news. Like I heard it on the radio this morning.
Yeah, all over the media.
I presume on the news during the day. Like this. And I suppose it's good to keep the case
absolutely
open, but 29 years, it's hard to see anyone coming forward over.
No, look, and you always got to hope. But I searched her name this morning and there was like 20 brand new news articles out, like all in recent hours. So people are definitely still remembering it well and trying to bring up more information.
It's just keep it live.
I think also keep it fresh because you want people remembering this. I think her family really encouraged police to work harder. If anything, I know they were a bit, but I think had they not been getting that push from her family who were so vigilant, they would have kind of given up. Yeah, probably would have been a cold case years ago. But no, I just think also with this not being forgotten constantly in the media, someone must know something somewhere, and hopefully eventually this being pushed every year regularly, someone comes forward.
Yeah, look, people just don't disappear like that.
No, absolutely not.
So there has to be someone out there that knows
something.
Or knows somebody that knows something that surely someone that was ever doing something that would definitely be acting suspicious.
Or my partner disappears on all the same nights that all these cases seem to happen or something, you know? Like you think someone, my neighbour always leaves the house during those hours. This is such a nosy country too.
There's a smell of burning clothes from my neighbour or something that he's...
Yeah. And I just think, especially where we used to live, you could not walk down the street without someone telling someone else that they'd just seen you walking down the street. You know what I mean? Like, surely some neighbour of someone is there going, like, this is all too suspicious. And they're just not coming forward.
Yeah, for people that wants to gossip. Like, this is a gossiping country. I agree with you there. You definitely need someone like that at this stage.
But it is also interesting that it all was in one decade and kind of ended. Like, did they die or...
She would have been celebrating her 50th birthday this year.
Yeah. Sure. And Deirdre would have been celebrating her 45th.
I know. It's just a long, dragged out thing for the family.
Really, it's cruel, really.
I know. It's like... They're not going to see her back, but at least if there's a grave or something, I think we call it, or there's some closure. So,
also with keeping in the media, there are numerous true crime novels, including JoJo's story, as well as TV shows about unsolved crimes that have covered her gaining more attention. And clearly this has been extremely impactful on her family, with her sister being so public about obviously wanting her home, and how JoJo going into Dublin that day changed the family's lives forever. Kathleen stated how JoJo's nieces and nephews thought the world of her. She said, I'm paraphrasing again, but she can only imagine the fear JoJo was going through when she realised she wasn't going to get home again that night. And for her family to have these thoughts of her questioning her final thoughts forever is absolutely heartbreaking, and not having answers is one of the cruelest things for them to go through, I feel. Kathleen stated that JoJo deserves to be brought home and laid to rest besides her parents. She's asked those who have information to look into their hearts and find the courage to come forward, as even a small detail could be the piece of the jigsaw that they're looking for. She stated, we need JoJo to finish her journey home, which is just heartbreaking and gives me goosebumps.
Yeah, but it's true. Like,
it is, of course it is.
Like, even if someone out there has done something, but I don't want to admit to doing it, like, just give someone to where the body is.
Yeah.
Simple as.
Or even, I do wonder what the priest letter was.
But essentially, the guards are nothing about that after.
No, that never came forward. However, given that nothing had happened between like 97 and then 2019 or something like that, and then 2020, police changed it from disappearance to murder, there must have been something in that. Because all that in the case of a year, anyway.
Yeah, but say it was an anonymous letter that just give a location.
Yeah. Obviously, there's like fingerprints and things like this, but like there's ways to maintain some form of anonymity. So, The Garda have asked anyone who met, saw, or has any information in relation to Jojo's murder who haven't yet spoken to investigators to come forward, even urging people to recall if they'd met Jojo in Bruxelles that night, and the people who gave her any of the lifts while she was hitchhiking, as in, like, even the ones they know she clearly got to the next location safely, they want to hear from them, as well as any at all sighting of her that night. That's all urged by police to come forward.
Probably, I don't know, it's 29 years later, but I suppose so. Any piece at all would probably help.
I am so obsessed with how much work her family, I feel like maybe particularly Kathleen, I feel like she is in a lot of the media. As I've said before, it's so well known because of how thoroughly pushed it was by her family to maintain it well known. And I think that's just really amazing work on their behalf, because at times I'm sure it wouldn't have been easy, and with police how they are, it would have been very tricky, but this persistence has definitely driven a lot of the investigation.
So I suppose, like, it seems they weren't getting much help from the police or guards in it, so not knocking all the guards, but
No.
they just don't have the resources. They're not capable of stuff like this.
Yeah. But even today I found, even in some of the new news reports and things, there was reports on police still searching. They were big today, as numerous reports came out today for the anniversary. It sounds like Kathleen and Jojo's family really maintained hope for quite some time that Jojo would be found alive, and they were regularly pleading for her to come home. They do now believe, as the guards have stated, that she was likely met with foul play. But as a nice little ending, a memorial plaque for Jojo was installed in Moon at the site of the phone box where she was last heard from.
I've seen this. I've been up there.
Yeah.
I walked up around that area, so I would have came across that plaque.
Is there anything, like, nice around? Is there, like, I know there's the plaque, but is it, like, do people go and look at it?
Flowers and stuff, really fresh flowers around and stuff. I suppose that'd be more from our family and stuff.
Oh, nice.
I got skipped well.
Yeah. But no, that is everything I could find out about this case. It was a very tricky case to research. There's not all that much information to go off, unfortunately.
So that's what you're going to have with unsolved cases.
Yeah.
You don't have nothing to go off of.
No, unfortunately you don't.
That's why they're unsolved.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's a tricky one, but that'd be nice to get feedback on it.
Absolutely, it would be nice to get feedback. And yeah, no, it'd also just be nice to know that it's maintaining exposure in the media around these days, and hopefully something ends up coming out.
Keeps it fresh in the minds.
It does. So no, it was a hard case today, to be honest. I mean, they're all hard, but no, it's close to home.
This one was closer to home, right? I would have grown up with this case.
Yeah. I did not, but learning about it still.
But no, I say even to listen to the radio this morning going to work and say that how she's still being remembered 29 years later. I guess what, as you say, it's down to her family.
Yeah.
Like, there's been a lot of missing cases and you would never hear anniversaries, but...
Well, that's exactly it. And even when I was looking through other people related to the Vanishing Triangle, Jojo has a Wikipedia page. Like, because I flicked through Wikipedia when looking at the Vanishing Triangle, and I was like, so Jojo has a Wikipedia page, but all these other names don't have a Wikipedia page. And it's just, I don't know, it's so sad just to see that, like, some garner a lot of attention and others, even though they're very similar, it's a lot less.
Yeah, but I suppose, look, Georgia's would be probably one of the biggest disappearing cases probably in Ireland at the time.
Yeah.
And the media did go strong on it. At the time, the media were doing more investigations than the guards. I remember I was young.
So would you have seen the reenactments and things like that?
I would have, like, it would have been the reenactments. They wouldn't be as up to date as technology now. Like, it was
yeah.
Something to be great. But I know that for what they had, the technology and between RT and the news and all that, they were good. I imagine, like, it's probably still even Crime Watch and stuff like that.
Is it Crime Line or something like that here?
Crime Line, yeah, because you can take it to the ring in. They're showing live case reenactment of cases.
Okay, yeah, so that was what it was on and stuff like that. So they really did push this, and
because that actually did solve a lot of cases.
Really, that's really cool. We should look into one that did solve.
Okay.
So yeah, that's everything.
Fair play. Good job done. Short space of time.
Thank you.
Fair play to you.
Well, we will see you next week. Have a lovely week.
Bye for now.
Bye.